All right, today's devotion is called Living Above Our Reputation. Today's January 22nd, or if you're following along on the days versus the date, today is day 22 of reading the Bible through alphabetically in a year. Today's morning rinse is 2 Chronicles 6-9. So go ahead and pause this, listen to the app, or read your Bible. All right, now that we're back, the featured verses for today's morning rinse is 2 Chronicles 9:5-6. Then she said to the king, "It was a true report, which I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom. Nevertheless, I did not believe their reports until I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half of the greatness of your wisdom was not told me. You surpassed the report that I heard." In today's morning rinse, we come to the exciting part of the story in King Solomon's life where he had just completed the job of building the temple for the ark. If you remember yesterday, there were 3 things that he did. 1, he claimed the mission as his own. 2, he determined in his heart to complete it. And 3, he verbally called the mission great. Now, at this moment in time in the story, it was finished, and I can't even imagine, I haven't even gotten words to describe what that atmosphere was like. The glory had filled the temple. There was this fire that came down and consumed the burnt offerings that they were offering. I mean, Solomon alone sacrificed 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. He dedicated this temple to God and to God's purpose. I mean, can you imagine this huge event? A citywide event. I mean, like so many people were there. And just the sacrifices alone, I wonder how long it took. But we do know that the dedication of the temple, it was like a 7-day celebration or a 7-day party, if you will. And God was pleased at this moment. And this story is where the verses come to fruition, where he says, "And my people who are called by my name, if they humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. I will forgive their sin and will heal their land." This is that moment where that popular verse is alive. I mean, this is what he said, and he's wanting the Israelites to turn away from sin and get their hearts right so that he can continually bless this land. I mean, this was a big, huge moment. So for all of you guys who create vision boards, I mean, sometimes I create a vision board and I get kind of a little frustrated that some things are not done yet. And they've been on my vision board for years. Well, this accomplishment to build this temple, it took him and his dad, King David, 20 years to complete. And I'm sure that people were watching this happen, and they knew that Solomon had verbally said, "I'm going to do this." And it didn't happen overnight. It took years. And after it was over, Solomon continued to build his kingdom, and he had literally become famous. He was the household name. Everyone knew who King Solomon was, and it was no wonder when the Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon's life and she decided she had to meet him for herself. I mean, she had heard the stories. She said that she had heard the stories, but apparently she'd never met him and wanted to see for herself. Like, could this really be real? And it says in chapter 9, verse 1, that she came to Jerusalem to test Solomon with very difficult questions. She's like, "Who is this man? I'm going to go for myself and I am going to test him, see if he's the real deal." Can you imagine Solomon welcoming her? But she did not just come by herself or with a few maids or whatever, however they traveled. She came with a full-blown parade. And this scene, I mean, I know it's kind of a funny comparison, but the Disney movie Aladdin, there's this scene where Prince Ali comes into the city and there's this big song about him and, you know, people are clearing the way for him. Well, that's almost kind of like I envision what happened here. Queen of Sheba comes, people clearing the way for her. There were camels carrying tons of spices and gold and precious stones, and there her cart was coming up, and Solomon was probably like, bring it, come on down, I'll show you my kingdom and show you that I'm the real deal. And so she met with him and she spoke from her heart, and she told him, like, this is what I'm thinking, and asked him really difficult questions. His reputation was so strong that it brought the Queen of Sheba to see him. I mean, his reputation would make probably anybody want to be in his presence and glean from him because of the wisdom that he had supernaturally been given to him by God. So when she arrived from her journey and she witnessed the greatness of Solomon's kingdom, and she asked him the questions and listened to his answers that he spoke, she was literally blown away. The New King James Version uses the word breathless. She was in awe. Solomon answered all of her questions, and she was astonished by his wisdom. And she was astonished by the words that he spoke. She was astonished by the luxury around him, obviously the material aspects of it. She was even astonished by the stairs. Just the stairs itself, the stairs that going up to the temple even captured her eyes. I mean, can you imagine? She was also amazed at the magnificent food that he served. You know, this was not just a little gathering. It was a magnificent display of the glorious abundance in his kingdom. Every aspect of Solomon's life beguiled her. Every aspect. There was nothing left unturned about Solomon's life. The way he spoke, the way he dressed, the way that he fed people, how he treated people, his kingdom and how it was growing. Everything bewildered her. So she knew that the stories that she had heard about him had truth. Like, people were telling her all this time, you got to see what Solomon's about. And she didn't believe him. She had to see it for herself. She's like, there's no way. There's no way. But when she saw how magnificent his life was by her very own eyes, and when she heard his wisdom with her own ears, she admitted that the stories that she had heard about his reputation, she admitted did not do him justice. And what was truly startling about this whole aspect was Solomon lived a life that was above the reputation that was scattered throughout the country. He was far better in real life. And that is what I mean when I titled this, Living Above Your Reputation. You know, sometimes we do have a really great reputation. And I hope that for all of us. I hope that all of us have stories and we can live a life. You know, I used to tell my kids when they were growing up, I would say, live a life to where that if anybody talks about you, no one believes it. And what I mean by that is live a life to where that if somebody has ill motives towards you and they say something negative about you, which I'm sure there were people even back in Solomon's day, that there were people that were spreading rumors about him or starting discord. There's always going to be people like that. But when you live a life in such a way that if anybody talks about you, no one believes it. And that is what I mean by that. May it be for all of us that we live a life to where that if anybody talks about us, no one believes us, because we are living above our reputation. So when people are around us, they know that our standards are very high. Our standards of talking, our standards of the way we dress, our standards of the wisdom that we portray on other people, the love that we show other people, how we treat other people, and the things that we are doing for God's kingdom are higher than what could potentially be our reputation. May this be so for all of us. Today's challenge to dig deeper is this. I want you to ask a few questions. How do others see and experience you? So ask yourself that question, like, Anita, how do other people see me and experience me? Do you have a high reputation? Is your standard in line with God's? If you followed along on this from day one, you know the day that I talked about God's plumb line. And you know that what a plumb line is and the standards of God. And do we measure up to God's standards? Do we have a high reputation? Do you keep your word? Can we be trusted to fulfill commitments? Or rather, are you considered wishy-washy and people can't count on you? I mean, how do you display your life? Do you count your blessings? Do you honor God in all that you do? How you talk to others, how you live, how you portray yourself, how you dress, everything. I mean, that's what Solomon did. I mean, all of these things were mentioned by Queen of Sheba. So what I want you to do in this challenge today, and to make this applicable for life, think of 1 or 2 areas that you can improve today to live above your reputation. You might even have like a really great reputation already, but what is 1 or 2 things that you can do to improve on that would make people go, oh my goodness, I heard about that, Anita, but oh my goodness, it's so much better in person. Think of 1 or 2 things. And if you can't think of something, ask God to point out some things that you can maybe sharpen just a little bit. And then in your evening reflection, you can pull out your journal or pull out the companion journal of the Rinse, Reflect, Repeat devotional. And after you've asked yourself these questions of how can I live above my reputation? Ask yourself these questions. And after you ask those things, I want you to write down what you feel God has spoken to you today about and ask God to help you with that. And I hope that you're seeing that every single day when we are going through the Bible and pulling out these stories and pulling out, these challenges for every single day, I hope you can feel the presence of your heart growing closer to God and diving deeper into making the Bible applicable for our daily lives today. And that's my whole purpose of Rinse, Reflect, Repeat. And I just want to continually thank you for joining me on this journey through the Bible alphabetically. It's fun. And I hope today's episode really did inspire you. I hope that we can all say to each other, you live above your reputation. You really do. To continue with this action-driven journey with your own printed copy, you can purchase the Rinse, Reflect, Repeat devotional along with the companion journal. To, of course, capture your daily reflections, and the links are in my show notes. Or you can visit AnitaCordell.com and order your copies there. Until tomorrow, let's keep rinsing, reflecting, and repeating. God bless you.